How do you think your journey with grief has been in the
I
last
would,
7 years?
many people come and say, and this is something which irks me at times, and I say it with love, and I'm sure they mean it with love. But I think you also mentioned about some friends, they avoided you after mom passed because they didn't know what to say. Just briefly, I'm passing the question on to you. What were your thoughts when those people, when they avoided you, you said something to them, hey, said something like, if you don't have it, don't avoid me.
Well, grief makes people uncomfortable. And a lot of times, other people want to make you feel better with common phrases like, time heals all wounds, it'll get better, she's in a better place. They're not necessarily bad things to say, but they're extremely foolish during the time and the context. And so it makes you feel isolated, it makes you feel like something's off. But grief is something that you don't get rid of, it's something that you carry. It's not a burden, it's something you carry, and it's the price you pay for loving somebody.
The scripture clearly says, it doesn't say don't grieve, but we don't grieve as the world grieves. There's a difference. Because the world grieves out of hopelessness. We grieve the loss of someone, natural. In fact, even Jesus wept, right? Jesus wept. But again, some Bible scholars say he wept because of the unbelief of the people around there.
Right.
Right? Now, we don't grieve as the world grieves who have no hope. That's why hope in God, I still hope in God, is a great reminder to me, son. Every morning when I get up and I walk out into the backyard, hey, do I miss mom? Of course I miss her. Every moment, everything. I keep talking to people, and possibly I go to the office and I talk about mom. Some of them, the man behind the camera, he doesn't, maybe he'll say, let Mr. Rufus talk. But it's just imparting, it's just giving them the love for mom.
Yeah.
And that it would have a message to people. So hope in God, I still hope in God, is an awesome testimony.
Thank you for that, Dad. Going back to the hospital, I wanted to ask you, given that cancer, the side effects of chemotherapy, you lose your hair, mom looked different than when you married her. How did her beauty and your perspective change? What was your point of view?
Very loaded question. Yes, mom is a very beautiful person. But her beauty was not just on the outside. In fact, at times I used to talk to her and say, sweetheart, what did you do with that money? And she would look at me like this. She says, Mister, I don't go to beauty parlors. I don't go to do makeup. And she came close to me and she said, look at me. What you see at 6 a.m., what you see at midnight is the same beauty. And Miss Vanity. Now, yes, mom started losing her hair. And she asked me, she said, you still love me? I said, you look even more beautiful. Because now I can see your inner beauty.
Yeah.
And remember, I learned it from her because you asked mom. Let me throw it back to you. You asked us a question. Tell the audience that.
I would often tease Dad and ask, Mom, what did you see in Dad? You looked so beautiful, so young, so vibrant. What are you doing with this guy? And now that I'm married, people ask my wife the same thing, so it is returned tenfold.
Yeah.
But mom said this.
Yeah.
I saw your dad's heart. And when she had cancer, what you're saying now is God gave you the opportunity to see her beauty and her heart at its truest form.
Yeah.
Truest form,
Yeah.
right? And that is marriage,
Yeah.
right? She was still your bride. And you looked at her with the same eyes, December 15th, remind me of the year, 1982.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen by chance.
That doesn't happen with our own efforts. I would take you back when on December 15, 1982, when I took Mom, the new bride, to our home in Calcutta. You know, I carried her over the threshold. And I praise God for this. And I think in one of our episodes they talked about family prayer. I took Mom and we went in, we knelt down and both of us prayed. We said, we are going to establish a family altar where we are going to pray in the morning, pray at night, because irrespective of how the day has gone or how the day is starting. And we did that. We would pray every morning because the Bible clearly says it is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing to give thanks unto the Lord and to sing praises unto thy name, O Most High, to show forth thy loving kindness every morning, and thy faithfulness every night. Now there are some times when we had a tiff. We used to argue. But again, I must confess, Mom was the better person all the time. She was, aren't you praying? Are you going to pray?
Right.
I would say, no, I'm not going to pray. But we made a promise. Okay. So I would be there. And then she would just tickle my chin like this. Smile. Jesus loves you. Okay. These are memories.
Yeah.
So that was one of the reasons, with God's help, we were able to pray. And son, I don't want people to think, hey, is this guy talking about a hunky-dory and a fairy tale? No, we had our problems. We had in-law problems, we had outlaw problems. We had all kinds of problems. We had church-related problems.
Sure.
And she taught me, son. She said, someone told me, give God first place in your life, then your wife, everything else. But I was a churchgoer. I was a guy who was very happy with my labels, board member here, Sunday school teacher, youth leader, etc., etc. And she would tell me, it begins at home. Charity begins at home. Was that charity always demonstrated? No. We would just go our own ways. But people who are watching, I would want to tell you, it's not easy. Marriage is not easy. Marriage is founded on Christ. He's the foundation. He's the rock. We don't build our house on sand. Just external beauty. Mom lost her hair, but she was the most beautiful person. Right? Boast, even now.
And I think that's important. That is the concept of covering your wife. And you were Mom's protector. She would always refer to you as her protector. And for the audience watching, they think you're a nice guy, but don't mess with his bride. You would kill for your bride. And so tell me about the morphine story.
Boy, oh boy.
Where Mom had an adverse reaction.
That was when two things, the new Adam and the old Adam. The old life and the new life.
Yeah.
But I'm not proud of that. But let me tell you this, your love for your spouse is so extreme. You would go all out to protect her. This happened when we were at the hospital. I used to take Mom for her chemo. And this one guy, he didn't check with the doctors. He gave her this morphine. And I tell you, I mean, even that picture is so vivid in my memory. All of a sudden I saw mom. She was rolling, her eyes were rolling. And she was literally frothing. And I said, hey, what's happening? What's happening? And the other nurses, he said, I gave her morphine. I didn't know. And they said, did you check with the doctor? Whatever was happening. And they had, what's that called? Code blue?
It's referred to as a code blue.
All around the hospital, there's code blue, a certain sort of thing, and they were rushing. And there's this guy who administered the injection or the morphine. He was there trying to push me. I grabbed him. I'm sorry, folks. That was me. I grabbed him. I pushed this guy. I pushed him so hard that I think my youth came back alive. I said, don't ever get me out from here. I said, you're the guy who did it. And I'm showing vengeance. I'll see you. Mom was, actually, they had to resuscitate her.
Right.
I'm there by myself. The head nurse came, the doctors came, they all came there and they stood there. I said, is this how my wife's going to pass? But out of the ashes comes the beauty. And whatever they did, don't ask me. But this guy was scared stiff. And I'm not saying it with any, pride. But I just said, get out from my sight. Hey, guys, my temper's gone down. It's gone. It's gone. By God's grace, by my wife's dealing with me, my temper's gone. Okay? But don't try it out on me.
I think it's a natural response of any husband.
Right. So now, this is a moment. I can't get a hold of you guys because it's all sort of, the phones don't go through. No connection. And then they put mom on that, is that the gurney?
Stretcher gurney.
They're moving her. The nurses were scared because, it's a big legal thing that can happen. But I want to say, we were not the guys for any suits and legal things. That's not what we learned. No, we don't sue people. But don't try it out. Okay? And so they were pushing mom and they were trying to see if she's getting her memory, her conscience, getting conscious. They said, Mrs. Rufus? No response. Mrs. Rufus? And then at one time, her eyelids moved a little bit. Then she said, do you know where you are? Mom's not saying anything, and I'm holding her hands. And she says, who's this gentleman who's next to you? There's a smile, little smile. Do you know his name? That time, she took a deep breath and she said, my sweetu. The head nurse saying, what did you say? She softened up. She says, sweetu. The nurse asked me, what is she saying? What's your name? I said, that's in between us. You guys almost messed her up.
Yeah.
That's between us. But she said, tell me. I said, she calls me Sweetu. We never called each other by name unless if she was angry with me. Sweetu, Gabby, Gabriel, Mr.
Mr.
Rufus.
Rufus.
You reached the top.
Yeah.
And then they said, well, they said, thank God. Actually, they're thanking God for their own selves because they would have got into serious problems.
Sure.
We put her there, and then she was squeezing my hands and to show. And then you guys came in. But remember, you also had an incident when she was in ICU. She said, you said, Mom, tell me. She was with the squeezing of the hand.
Yeah. So when Mom was in the ICU, she couldn't speak. She was completely nonverbal because of whatever procedure was done. But she could touch, she could feel, she knew you were there. And I said, Mom, if you love me, give me 3 taps. So we were communicating. Big taps she was giving me. 1, 2, 3. And that's how we would communicate for that time. And thank God she woke up from the ICU. But that even led to her passing. I said, Mom, I love you. Can you say you love me in her last moments? And she squeezed my hand 3 times so hard. I'll never forget those moments.